Okay, let me record it. It's recording now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to go back, right? So the main thing that I'm checking before approving anything related to divestment, right? It's the RDA template, so-called RDA template. So what is in there, right? In which sales organization the asset is from, right? Then what type of operation we're gonna do? Because it can be a sale, it can be a sale as scrap, right? So we dismantling the assets and then selling the parts, or it can be a write-off. Okay.
Yeah.
Write-off. You're familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have to if it's a write-off, we have to explain what is the reason for write-off, right?
Hold on. A write-off means you're still keeping the asset. You're just devaluating it.
No. So basically, you're gonna you're gonna write. How can I explain that part? Simply, so there is still a net book value on that. Imagine.
Okay.
And you want to make it to 0, right? So you're gonna write off the assets, but it needs to be it's gonna be repercuted into other lines, right? So that's what we're calling the write-off. So we're making it to 0, so it's disappearing from our books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Then company codes, right? Because we have different sometimes company codes in the same country. Okay.
Yeah.
And then of course the location where the physical assets is located, right? And then when it was put into operations, normally that needs to be filled, but it's not, mandatory. That I can also review the RDA template and provide you an updated one. Then of course, because it's in our fixed assets register, right? So we need to explain which type of which asset number it is in ERP, because if you are selling it, right, it needs to be out of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yeah.
Then here the material description, and then so basic understanding on what is it. It's not really clear here. It's just I know it by heart. So it's basically a POC, so point of contact that we have, so a building that we are selling, and here what was the original cost of the building. So that normally needs to be filled, right?
Yeah.
And of course you have to see, okay, that was the original cost. It's depreciated over X amount of year. Is it fully depreciated? So you have the IFRS depreciation in local currency, and the IFRS net book value, which is the net book value, of course, the original cost minus the depreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tax accounting, as I said, that will be reviewed. It's not really required. Costs associated to the divestment, if any, right? Because sometimes in order to sell an assets, then you have the additional cost linked to it, and which is the value, and then you have finally the gain and loss from the sales. So it can be, if it's a write-off, it can be, for example, a losses, because you still have in net book value of something, and then you're gonna write it off, right? So it's gonna be a loss. So it's gonna be impacting your results. But if you are selling a building that is fully depreciated, right, for I don't know, 300,000, then of course you will have a positive impact. So
where do you put the sale price? Which field would you, if you're going to sell this, where would you capture the?
So it will be in my. Yeah, let me show you where I will capture it. So I will have it in my CapEx T&M, right? And I will have here basically. So when the RDA template is finalized and the RDA is approved, what is happening? So invoicing team is creating an invoice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is put in a specific part of the books, and it's reflected in our CapEx actuals. If I'm going on divestment, right? Let me show you. Let me take just one in Belgium. You'll understand. Okay. Here, let's take this one, right? We sold some vehicles. Okay.
Yeah.
So as you can see here, it will be reflecting. No, it's actually no. It's so we didn't plan any budget for it, but we're gonna have. I know it's not a good example because I have zero in that one. But let's imagine I have here in my actuals, reflected in my actuals, 50,000. And then I will see it and I will be able to track it, but it will be reflected in our books and also in Cognos. Yeah, the Cognos it's our official reporting. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what it is. Let me go back to the gain and loss. Then of course, what is the type of currency that we are using for that one? And you have exactly the same thing than in USD. Okay.
Okay.
And this is based again on a table that is behind on what is the rate for each currency. Okay.
Okay.
So if we go back to our RDA, right, you can see, right, they have specific codes. RDA is divestments are always with starting with 17 the year, then the zone, and then divestment, and then of course the code, which is specific based on the country.
So this is going to be auto-generated by the system. It's not going to be a manual input code like the RIA.
Yeah, it's going to be a manual input code like the RIA, exactly the same. So that's why we
manual capture.
Yeah, so it's the same way because our team will then create this specific code. Okay.
Okay.
So then you can see here again who is the project owner, when it's gonna be the first month of the spend, actually, when we're gonna receive the money, and then what is, as you can see, what is weird here is that you cannot see the amount that we will get, right? It's everything linked to zero. Why? Because of the approval metric that is picking the net book value. Does it make sense or?
No, that doesn't make sense to me. Hold on. So you say in the
because here, let me go back.
Zero there. Okay.
So you see the current request is zero, right?
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
It corresponds to the net book value. As you saw in my RDA template, the net book value was zero.
Yes.
So that's why it is there. So when it's connected, what I would like to have in the new tool, though, it's another field where we will put the gain and loss of the sale of the asset, because that's something that is missing. So I want still to be picked based on the net book value because our DAG is created on the net book value, but I would like to see what is actually the amount of proceed, because otherwise, currently, what I have to do is to go there and check what is the gain and loss.
Correct. Okay. So, yeah. So you want to, you don't just want the subtracted amount. You want the gain and the loss, and sure.
Yeah. And that's the same, right? For divestment, we have also budgeted divestment, some of them. So you might have something in there that we say, okay, next year we want to have for 2 million of divestment. I don't know, 1 million in red pack, right? So returnable packaging. So we're gonna sell a scrap, some cakes, because they are completely, I mean, they're very old and we need to renew them, right? Then I will have a RDA that will be created for that sells of a scrap of cakes, right? And I will have zero as net book value, but I will have gain and loss of X amount.
Okay, so when you say the divestments are budgeted, so in my annual capital budget, I'm going to have projects I want to build, and then in there I'm going to have assets I'm going to sell. And if I'm making money off these assets, they're going to lower my capex budget for the year. Is that correct?
Correct, because it's your net capex. So your net capex is your gross minus your divestment.
Okay.
So of course, what you're selling, it's positive, right?
Okay, so if
Because
you're running out of money somewhere along the line, you can just sell something.
exactly. That's the thing. That's how we can technically go over our budget, or if we have scopes, but from global. So yeah. So that's explaining, and then based on the net book value, right? You can see that there is different type of approvers.
Okay.
So if the net book value, then you have the functional V is above 50K USD, then it's the functional VP. If it's above 375K USD, then it's the zone control director, and then the zone VP finance, and that's the last approval.
Okay, so I mean, the net book value is from the accounting system. That's what it's worth in terms of your books. But then you've got the you also got the gains, which is your selling price, or your losses. Okay, and that you want to split up. Okay.
So that's what, if I'm going back in here, right? What I would like to have, it's another column, right, where I can see what is the gain and loss from the operation. Because here you have already seen, you can see, okay, what did we sell here? It was for commercial. What did we sell? We sell some coolers. And what was it? It was a write-down on not of non-operating assets, right? But they were not used anymore. So, and they were fully depreciated, so we sold them, and we got in here 72K USD, 52K USD as gain.
So, in a situation where, let's say the net book value is 0, and then when I dispose of this asset, I make another loss of because it's going to cost me money to get rid of this asset. I make a loss of $10 million.
Yeah.
Okay. It's still going to go to the guy that can approve a net book value of 0.
Yeah, that's the problem that we are having, and that's exactly what I wanted to let you know, that I would like to change that part. In case, of course, we're having a loss above, I would like to connect it. So I would like to review that DAG and provide you the numbers.
Okay, so we could have we could like kind of do a rule that says monitors 2 values, and whichever is higher we send to that, right?
Exact. So that's why I need to re-review that DAG to make sure to clean and to send you the RDA template, and to make sure that everything is aligned. Okay, but you get the concept.
Yeah.
So once the RDA is approved, so that's the last approval here in this case, right? If we were talking about the net book value above the 1.5 million, it goes to fixed assets the same way as the RIA, right? So fixed assets team is sending the information to invoicing team that we have the RDA approved, and of course they are creating the invoice file.
Assets team. So they create an invoice for it.
Yeah.
And do they, once they create the invoice for it, do they just mark the task kind of a complete, or do we capture any information back on the RDA form, which is going to reside in the Capri system?
So the thing is, no, I will not do this. I would stop it here, because afterwards it's our internal process, right? Okay. So what just need to be done, it's sending the information to fixed assets team the same way as the RIA. Okay, because that's their job to send it to invoicing, because invoicing cannot create anything related to divestment without having the RDA template approved.
Okay, so just to be clear, after the RDA is approved, we send it to fixed assets. And that's we send a task to someone in fixed assets, and that's where our process stops.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Because afterwards it's our internal one and someone else that is there.
Okay, now, all right, that's fine.
No, go ahead if you have
No, I'm just saying, so me as the fixed asset person, I get a task.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure that, is there any code or input that I capture into that form that says create invoice? Like, do I put the invoice number that's been created, or do I put some sort of a IO number?
Yeah, so you would like that once they are completing the task, then invoicing would send back the number and attach it to the form.
Okay, and is that number called an IO number, or what would it be called?
No, it will be an invoicing.
Okay.
And the specific GR account that is something to other. So what I would really do is stop here, because otherwise it's going to be too complex. So sending it to a fixed assets team, and then they are dealing with it.
Okay, so so they our system will prompt them to put in some sort of number into our system to confirm that that task is complete.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then we got we can cross-reference.
Okay.
Okay, now, so so this spreadsheet that gets attached.
Yeah. So this is very important.
Working that way. Okay, like in the RIA form, we got rid of the whole NPV spreadsheet and built that system. But for this divestment, do you still want to keep that spreadsheet and then you just attach it as a supporting document?
Let me see, because the problem is that at the moment, invoicing team will only create the invoice if they have the RDA template. But in the same time, if we are merging the two forms I mean, we are displaying all the fields in the RDA, right? We could technically get rid of the Excel sheet. Do you get my point, or?
Yeah. So the Excel sheet doesn't do any fancy calculations, does it?
Except for the rate. So it's taking the local currency and then putting it into USD. But that actually we could ask the project owner to do it, but I have to check that part. But what I'm saying is that if we can display instead of removing, so if I'm going back, going back there, if we can why? Sorry, super slow. So if we can get rid of some of the fields and create one specific field for divestment with all the information that we need, I don't see any issue of removing the RDA template, the Excel sheet.
Mm-hmm. So it's just really capturing more information on the RDA
exactly
form.
Correct. That would be the case, because afterwards then we can just check what is really key for us. It's really to have the assets number, right? So that I can review in the form. I can review the RDA template and tell you what are the key fields that needs to be provided.
Yeah, okay. So I say there would be an action item if you could just give us a list of the fields that you want in the form with some sort of description, and is it a number, or how long it's got to be as well, right? I mean, like what's a memo?
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm suggesting is that I will review all the fields on the RDA template, right? And try to group everything into the RIA. I mean, the RDA. Let's refine it with divestment. Good. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Sorry.
Okay, and this is all the fields will just be manually captured. Someone's going to know what the asset codes are and just type it in as they produce the form. Okay.
They have to, because I mean, if I don't have the asset number, then I cannot double check if what they are telling me on the depreciation if it's correct, right? That means that I have to go and check if it's actually the same assets that we are talking about, because otherwise then we are creating an invoice that we will sell to someone for something that is not correct, right? So then we have a mismatch.
Okay, now what about what does the budgeting of this look like? Can you give us like if this appears on your CapEx budget spreadsheet, I'm assuming this has also got, everything that the RIA form has, package, sub-package, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so let's go back to one, right? One. Oh. Okay. So here you can see, right? So the same, what is the project name? So what are we basically selling, right? Then what is the zone? So that's the standard fields as area, right?
Yeah.
And then here as well, you have they need to put the package that is linked. Is it a divestment? Yeah, classification, and then what is the sub package?
Mm-hmm.
That we have. So I think that Balaji, you can maybe share.
We got that all for the main RIAs, so we've got that hierarchy, okay. And then so the budget, so you still have the whole previous year, current year, but you wouldn't really have a previous year here. You would just have
no, because if we decide to sell an asset during the year, right? So we have to complete it. If it's sold, then for which amount? So we might have a differences, right? But afterwards, when it's sold, right? So you don't have. It's not gonna be running over, except if it's it will not happen.
So in the main, like in the RIA form, when we got the costs, we split it over components and over months.
Yeah.
Do we need to split it over components at all?
Let me think about that, because technically we could, right? If we are selling, for example, a brewery. Let's say that we're selling a brewery.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, in the brewery, right, you will have multiple assets, right? So you could, but they might report into one asset code in the fixed asset register. So you might have a split between parts that will be sold. But I think that again, it would be. Let me go back in here to see. So there they grouped, right, multiple assets together.
Okay, all right. So we would need to have this. The spend detail would have to have definitely like asset number. So we're probably going to have its own spend detail, which looks like this sale.
Correct. If we're grouping everything, or but that we have to decide. We'll discuss with Brad. If we go there by we keep the Excel file, or if we just combine everything. But that, let me come back to you on that one. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So that was it, guys. Do you have any question? Others?
Yeah, I think the big thing is definitely if you want us to combine everything, then obviously there's complexity in the form because now we have to put that grid view again,
Exactly.
and sum up with asset numbers. The quick and dirty solution is just to carry on attaching a file, and then we really just using some information to route it for the workflow, just so we hit the right approver.
Correct. So yeah, let me go back to you on that one to see if we can clean some of the parts and we can merge everything together. If not, then we will carry on with the Excel sheet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you mentioned the currency. I didn't quite understand why. Obviously, we got currency is a different discussion in our system, but would the budget be? Would that work the same as the RIA budgets in currency?
Exactly. So because we are reporting everything to the budget rate, right? So that means that that if I'm going here, let me go. Sorry. If you can see here that everything is in local currency, right? And then it was translated in the form to the budget 18 rate. Okay, so we know exactly what we are gaining from it or not.
I'm just trying to think of the implications if we don't include the spinning table in our system. It could mean that our any kind of reporting on the capital budget may not work that well.
Yeah,
you know what I'm thinking, because like you're gonna have, if we have the RIA's got a lot of intelligence in it. We got everything split up. Now we're gonna have a bunch of divestments in there where we're only really dealing with the amount. We're not going to be getting detail. That means if you want to report on some detail, that we might not be able to do those reports. That would be my only concern.
Yeah, but
if we don't do this table.
I think that there is another way to do it. If you're putting just the field that I was mentioning to you, right, just from the gain and loss, then maybe we can sort something from there, because it will give you the overall value.
Yeah, okay.
So it would regroup everything into one, and if they want more details, then they need to go in. Basically, it's just put once. It's like if it was be one spend details, right, and everything is in there.
So, but I mean, if I'm reporting on component one kind of thing, a component, it's not gonna, the divestment's not going to be included in there.
That is true, but from my experience, we don't do any type of reporting on just specific types, because they're selling more together, right?
Hey, Fabio, you will need the net book value for routing too. Don't forget that.
Oh yes, yeah. So we'll have the like the user is going to be inputting key information into our form, like definitely the net book value.
Yeah, it could just be the net book value and the gain loss. It sounds like to me.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to think, like, if we are running a report on a component, we're going to pick up the components in all the different RIAs, but in the divestments, we're not going to pick it up. That's the only thing. So if you're selling, your total amount of components should be less because you are recovering some funds potentially.
Yeah, the only thing why I'm hesitating and I would not do it. It's because sometimes they are doing one divestment, right? But let's imagine that they're gonna do a write-off. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have 120 lines. Huh?
Okay.
So if you need to, if they need to go one by one, there, I think that it's way easier to go via on that side via Excel than via the tool, right?
Okay. All right. So, I mean, yeah, I suppose I'm fine with both.
I don't know because I mean, in terms of visibility, how would you input more than 100 items in your? Is there any limitations in spend details?
I don't think we got limitations. In terms of items. I mean, if I think it is going to be easier for the user just using these Excel grids and attaching it. There's no doubt about it. So, question: when so when we are sending an RDA, and you're budgeting, you're only really looking at the net book value, correct? Or are you looking at the gains and losses?
Gain and losses.
And the gains and losses, does that affect the capital budget? Okay, so we work on. So if you're making a loss,
let's take the example here, right? Let me take divestment in Russia. I know now it's putting.
It sounds to me like, Fabio, the gain and the loss is what goes against their capital budget, but the net book value is the routing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so gain and loss goes against the capital budget. Yeah. That's why we have accountants on board. Thanks, Bill.
Exactly. So
all right, but according to Pierre, he wants to revisit that whole routing, right? He wants to probably base the routing on the net value, possibly.
Yeah. I will put if it's possible to do net book value or the amount, but that let me review and come back to you with a solution. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Then, guys, I don't know if you have any other questions.
Any other questions, Jim and Bill?
I don't think so. But just to confirm, if it is a loss, then it's considered capital spending or it's additional spending.
Sorry, can you repeat?
If you have a loss,
yeah,
then it's considered capital spending as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So no portion is pushed to operating costs here.
Yeah.
So there's no OpEx here, correct?
It might be for some. Yeah, I have to check that part because I know that that they will put to. I have to check. Let me take a note on that one, and I will come back to you. Right. Do you have anything to add?
No, I joined late, but this is really a unique situation for Europe in regards to how we handle this. So I really don't have much more of a global view in regards to this process beyond stating that it's a benchmark process that not all zones are following, but certainly is a great practice they have here. Most zones don't look at divestments in this level of detail, but it's great that they have this type of control around it.
Yeah, because I mean, every time that you are taking something out of your fixed asset register, then you need to monitor it, right? Otherwise, you would technically in your accounting books sell 2 times something that is not even there, right?
So I think the big benefit that almost like the selling point to have this kind of control is that they're going to increase their budgets. Like if they if they're processing the divestments through the system, they're getting
Correct.
a credit.
Yeah. We are doing it, for example, for some of the parts. We can even divest delivery rights, right?
Mm.
So you will see there are many differences, but I will provide all the categories and what can be done.
Okay. All right. So I've got a few action items for you up here. One is to determine if OPEX costs play a role in here at all. And the other one would be just to send us a list of the fields you want in the form. What else? I think there was a third one.
So, and define the net book value and
Oh yes,
what is
and
speaking.
and the delegation of authority, is it based on net book value only, or is it also? Do we also look at the losses?
Yeah.
You know, maybe we just look at the losses, not even the gains, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. We could do that. Just go if there is any losses, then it needs to go to something. Yeah, correct. So I have OPEX, DAG, and then fields. Okay. Investment process. Okay. All right.
Okay. I'm just making a few notes here. All right. Let's just think. So Pia, I'd say when you identify the fields, if there are any like lists you want us to you want to be able to manage, like there's a couple of categories of divestment. You said a sale, write-off.
Yeah.
So we can either put them in our system, in our form, and then you're not going to be able to change them, or we can put an admin screen allowing you to change a name. So you must just identify what you would expect to change without needing any IT person or us involved.
Correct, but I think that those are already. If we're going back, right, you will see it here. Let me go back. You will see here as well that there is already one. Where is it? Not on this one. Where is it again? Normally they have to put it, the cell as scrap. So I think that we will put in the type of cells that it is in here. Yeah. And then we will add the value that we will get from the cells of the proceed.
And there's no difference in logic whether I say it's scrap or whether I say it's a write-off. There's no. It's just information purposes, right? There's no rules around that. Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's very important for invoicing team to have that value to exactly know what it triggers, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. Then that's it on my side, guys.
All right. Okay, so we're going to have to write a bit of a mini spec, and Louise, I'm assuming you're going to want this estimate in the scope of work.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So shall we tackle the next monster, the currency?
The big boy.
Yes, and guys, about the currency, just to, let's say, to bring something to the table. This is a very nice and interesting functionality, but it shouldn't be that complicated, right? I mean, we already have the very similar situation for CAPEX 1ST, and the solution that we got was like we have a table and all the FX rate for the current year is there. we do not use to have more than one, in the very worst case, two chains for the year. And basically that's it. Brad, I don't know how more complex it should be in the tool.
Yeah, I think the difference is that we're talking about two different things, though. Because 1ST is simply taking the data from SAP and converting it at a budgeted rate. We're talking about, in this case, the capability to translate budgets based upon multiple currency rates. It's different.
So, Brad, something in your notes, I was looking at the email thread.
Yep.
It sounds like the budgeting is done in local currency.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Correct.
then why, my first question is, why don't we just, and then somewhere along the line, you turn it into US dollars and then upload it into our system. Why wouldn't we just do all of that in the local currency?
Because we consolidate at the US dollar level, the budgets. We don't, at a global level, we don't consolidate local currencies for any of our budgets. Everything's done in the US dollar equivalent.
Yeah.
P&L, cash flow, CapEx.
Okay, sure.
Everything. So that's where it gets challenging, right? And so we operate, when we load into Cognos, we load it in local currency, right? But the loading of the budget only occurs, I don't know, Pierre, in December, January, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's January.
Up until that time, everybody's working either in standalone systems like TM1 or in Excel. Largely in Excel, I would say, for almost every budget that I'm involved with. CDB, P&L, cash flow. Everything's done in Excel templates that are in US dollar equivalents based upon a published, what we consider latest estimate exchange rate, which comes out in the July timeframe.
Yeah.
But the problem that we have now is that budget will change most oftentimes, and does change after we start loading the RIAs. Because typically people want to start loading these RIAs right after the board approval, which is in December. We are then working off of a preliminary exchange rate that most times that changes, which requires us to go back in and update every single project of 12, 13,000 projects. The problem with that is that we have no good way to do so in the current tool. So what happens is we translate everything in Excel and then delete everything in the tool, or somehow manually update it. It's very, very painful process from my experience.
So once, okay, so everyone budgets in their local currency, it goes into Cognos.
Correct.
You obviously are reviewing this all in US dollars at corporate level.
Yep.
Now, when we get the export, can't we get the export in local currency?
The export from where? From Cognos?
From whatever gives, you're going to be giving us an export of capital that we're going to import?
That's an Excel file, yeah.
What generates that Excel file?
That's the budgeting templates that we work off now that we were saying are inefficient, and we'd eventually like to migrate them into some sort of tool like Caprivi, right? Like to actually do the 1-year plan from like a bottom-up perspective from a demand side inside of the tool, right? Right now that's all done in Excel. So we publish templates during the beginning of the budget cycle. And we publish those templates from corporate, from global to the zones. They populate the templates, send them back under several iterations from September until November. Typically, there's typically 3 submissions, I'd say. And then we consolidate that data at global. Now, obviously, there's a lot of consolidation that's now happening at the zone too, right? Because we send them templates. They create templates to send out to the different functional areas in the different zones or different sites. So there's templates upon templates that build up to a global view. But essentially, all of that's done in Excel.
And that's all USD across the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what gets uploaded in local currency in Cognos? You see, that's where my disconnect is.
Yeah. The local currency in Cognos, we translate that budget based upon the difference in the exchange rates. So what will happen is we operate off of a consistent exchange rate in that budget template. Okay, so we have 3 rates in the templates that we use. In this case, I was just looking with GCC the other day with this. So we operate off of a 2018 budgeted rate right now, right? That's everything we do from an organic variance perspective, right? Nominally, we handle cash flow nominally, but for performance, we do all the calculations organically. So we operate off of a consistent exchange rate, right? Obviously, the actual rates are fluctuating, but we don't take the impact in performance from a target perspective or for a tracking and monitoring perspective. Nominally, we take it organically, so we operate off a consistent rate all year. It's the budgeted rate. So that's rate number 1 that will be in these templates, okay? Rate number 2 is the latest estimate rate. That'll typically be published what we consider either a 6+6, which is basically 6 months of actuals plus the 6 months of a forecast based upon Bloomberg indexes and everything else that Global uses to calculate what they think the FX rates will be, right, for the last 6 months. So now we have a full year 6+6, 6 months actual, 6 months LE of the forecast for the exchange rates. So that's exchange rate number 2. We typically operate the full budget cycle off of that. Then we have a 3rd and final rate that will be published in December, January. That will be a final budgeted rate. But the zone doesn't. What we do from Global is we will take the equivalent that they submit in the 18 rate, 18 LE FX rate, and we will translate that budget at the project based upon a mapping at the country level. So we will take the 18 LE rate back to local currency based upon what country we're in the Excel templates, and then we'll take the local currency back to the final exchange rate, and we'll publish that file to the zones and ask them to calendarize the spend. Okay, so this is typically happens in January. So when we send the file out to them in January, the translation has already occurred to the final rate, so they know what the budget is to load into Cognos for CapEx. Because we're doing the translation, we're taking that sort of out of their hands so we can centrally manage it to make sure that they're using consistent rate throughout the budget and that everybody's using the same local currency equivalent. Does that make sense? I mean, Pierre,
Okay.
is that correct? Sort of how it works?
Yeah, it's exactly correct. What I would suggest here, it's if we can have the view in the tool of the tool, if we can do it in local currency and in US dollar, then I think that we can go with what Luis was suggesting and create a table behind, because you will have the two, right?
Yeah, that's my idea. My idea
So
is
I
you
think
need to have 3 tables.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to have, I think the way the system needs to operate is you need to have in this case, a preliminary exchange rate, a final rate, and then a country to local currency mapping that then can translate the data. So in other words, at the beginning, this is how I envision it, Fabio, when we first load the projects, right, we're loading them in December at a rate that we know is going to change. In this case, call it the 18 LE rate. It's December of 2018. We're loading Europe's project list. They have 3,000 projects. They want to start approving them, but we don't have a final budgeted rate in this case. So we load the projects in an 18 LE rate. We have a base table in Caprivi that has all of the currencies in the 18 LE rate, right? And we know that based upon which country Europe is, allocating at their capital level, what the local currency is. Belgium, France, UK, you name it, we have the mapping there to the local currency. The tool that can then translate all of those projects into the local currency equivalent based upon the 18 LE mapping, the base table. Now we have a second table that's a final budgeted, called a 19 budget FX rate table, right? When we get into January, the way I see the tool working is we can then update that table to match what the currency, what the FX rate is loaded into Cognos, the final rate. Then the tool can then do the translation between that local currency and the final budgeted rate based upon that second table to update or refresh the US dollar equivalents. That's sort of how we manage it currently in the budget templates.
Yeah, Brad, I think that what would be good if everyone, either in the capex tool, right? That we make that the project owner will go and enter the number in local currency. Why? Let me explain why. Because anyway, they are managing their all the project in local currency, right? It's for us that is translated into USD because that's the way we are reporting. So if we would let them enter all the values that they're requesting in local currency, right? And it will be translated for us in USD, and that they can, because for the reapproval, it will be always budget rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for the 1-year plan, then they can just pick between the two rates. Would be taking either the first table that you were referring, the budget table, or then the LE 6+6.
What do you mean? You're saying to actually enter the budgets in local currency?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a big change to the process, right?
Yes, but if it's translated, it's exactly the same visibility for us, right?
But don't we have the ability now to do the translation already in the Excel file? I mean, we can create a local currency column, right?
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So we can go and put as them, and it's automatically, because on the Excel file, Balaji and Pallavi can work on that, and it's translated exactly with the rate that you want, right?
Yeah, I think that we need to think about the implications of that, though, because that's a big change in the process, right?
But I mean,
I'd rather, yeah. I mean,
just to let you know,
yeah.
that's what I'm doing with my template for budgeting.
No, I understand. I mean, everything you guys work off of the local currency, but when we consolidate the data, that's where it gets challenging, right?
Yeah, but if you have the view in USD, it doesn't impact you anyhow, right?
Yeah, let me think about that one, Pierre. It's a bit of a
See, our system is designed that the budgets can be uploaded into in their local currencies. Okay,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're able to consolidate that and run reports on the base currency USD. Okay.
Yeah, but
now what sort of confused me with this whole thing is that it sounds like you are doing it, then you're bringing it into USD, you're uploading it into our system, and then you want to convert it into local currency, and then but you want to preserve the local currency amounts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's almost like going against the grain of our system a little bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you have just if you're able to just import those budgets in local currency, then our system knows that that's like the local currency, and that budget will never change in that currency. And then if you then change the exchange rate to USD,
mm-hmm.
Okay, we will always then recalculate the new USD budget, but the budget in local currency would remain the same. So that's sort of how our system is designed.
And that's what I'm suggesting. So I'm fully aligned. But what is key for us is that we have a way in the form, right? When we are having a RIA process, to have it in USD as well, to see what is the amount in USD. Because if I don't have that, then again, everything when I'm checking, right, projects, what I'm looking, it's at my TNM file, and my TNM file is in USD because it's our central reporting one, right? Everything needs to be in USD. So otherwise it's gonna be difficult. So that's why if we can have two fields, one in local currency and one in USD, with USD highlighted in some in bold, for example, then just to make sure that no one is confused, then I think that it's the win.
Yeah, we do have USD throughout. So we always have the local currency and the USD.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, I kind of like if you're able to get that import in the local currency, I think it might just almost solve the problem. And then all we really need to do then is to have a recalculate button. Like the ability for you to change the US dollar to local currency and apply the recalculation. and that's going to give you the new US dollar amounts. But that does not change the budget in local currency.
Correct. It should not,
Sites.
because
And that's how systems designed. So I think we might be pretty aligned here, but provided we can import the values in, and we can even do it if you give us a spreadsheet that's all in US dollars. That's fine. When we import it, we can then say, well, we can do the transformation and flag the budget, flag the currency of the budget, to be local. So we can handle that as part of the import program, Brad. So if you still want to, convert in everything in US dollars at the time of the import, we will, our import program can, calculate local currency based on some exchange rate. And then as long as we get it into our system and that budget is then flagged in euros, then then we'll always be able to say, well, let's look at the budget in euros, and you'll always be able to see what that original budget was.
Yeah, I think it's good because it's also providing visibility on how the rate are affecting the projects, right?
Yeah, see, because I was under the impression that the budgeting is all done in US dollars, and then if the exchange rates change, let's say the US dollar gets really, really weak, you wanted to change the budgets in Brazil. In other words, give the people less money to spend, but that's not the case. You are preserving whatever they budget in, locally. You are preserving and protecting that budget for them, and that's how our currency was designed with that in mind.
Yeah.
So Brad,
I think we can load it in local currency, but
because
we can change the budget templates to display the local currency amount on the consolidated view that I'm working on with Pallavi now to update the templates. So we can add two fields. One would be the local currency mapping by country, right? And the other one would be the translation, right, to local currency.
Correct.
And then we could use that to upload into the tool.
Yeah, and afterwards it's really easy. Then you just have to change the table or change the numbers, and then it's automatically converting to the new rate. So for us, we will not have to delete anything, right, Brad?
Correct. It would just be done automatically.
Exactly. What I would like to move forward with.
No, I think we could change it in the budget templates. I still don't know that we'll have people entering it in the local currency though, because the way I'm seeing it operate is we'll translate it to local currency. But because it's too much of a change in process.
To be fair, Brad, it's easier for everyone, huh? Because when you are planning your project, you are planning it according to the local currency, right? You are running your project in the country, so you need to know when you are asking like for, I don't know, how much will cost your the project to your suppliers and so on. Then everything is in local currency.
Well, let's see. In parallel, I'm working on the budget templates. I'll invite you to some meetings with Pallavi to figure out the best way to do it there.
Yeah, and I have an idea as well to make it simple for everyone, but let's discuss it separately.
Okay.
And so the way our system works is that the budget, once the budget is entered in that local currency, the RIA submission has to be in that local currency. Okay.
But we talked about toggling between the currencies, right? Or not?
Yeah, but now I'm thinking, do we even do we even need to do that? Because remember, you're going to capture the RIA in the local currency, of course, from an approval point of view, and we can still display all the amounts in USD. Okay, from in the one pager. okay, that people approve.
No,
But what about your routing, Fabio? Isn't it all in USDs?
Sorry, the what?
The workflow routing.
Yes, that's all in USDs, but that's that's fine. It will still route on USD, but I'm talking about the capturing of the RIA. Okay, so if your budget's in euros, you choose your project. It's going to show that you got €1 million in budget. When you then open the RIA form, it's going to be the currency is automatically going to be RIA in euros, and you're then going to add your costs. And let's say you are asking for exactly $1 million on your RIA. Okay.
Yeah.
It would mean that your valuable balance would be sort of $0. Your request will all be you'd be putting in all the inputs in euros, and then when you press submit, okay, our system then will convert it to the US dollar base currency. The one pager will show US dollars. It will then go through the delegation of authority based on US dollars. That functionality is built in the prototype as of right now.
Yeah, but
So
Fabio,
there's no changes there.
just to be very clear, I think that what is really key is to have at all time the two currencies right next to each other. So if I can share again my screen, you will understand what I mean. So imagine here, can you see my screen? So here they're gonna have right here they're gonna have the budgeted amount, right? For your budgeted amount, it's in KUSD. What I would like to have, it's right under, first of all, in local currency, right, where they will have to input the data, and I want to see when they input the data, translated it into USD right under, because it's key to have at all time the visibility on the two.
Yeah, I think we kind of built that visibility.
If we can have it there and in the one pager in both local currency and in USD, I mean, that's perfect, because here you will have, again, what is your budgeted amount, right? For your budgeted amount, it will be in USD and in local currency under, and what is the current requested amount in USD and in, or you can put it in one line in euro, I mean in local currency, and then put the amount and slash and then the amount in USD, right? The way of displaying it's up to you. I think that what is key is to have both, because I mean, for us on our side we will use the USD, but on their side they are more familiar with the local currency.
Okay, so if I can share my screen.
Yeah.
And I've just got the prototype up and running. So let me just share screen. Okay, so in a situation where let's create a budget. Okay, so this would be, we would be doing this automatically, okay, from the input file. And the area would be, let's go.
Whatever.
I know Brian works, yeah. Okay. Plant would be, is that a good plant, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so now we're going to create a budget. Okay, and it's going to be project owners 01. Let's get budget approved. Okay, and title is Fabio budget in euro. Okay, and then here we add a year, and we say that it's, let's say $1 million. Okay, so I'll say 7 close. Okay, so now Now our system knows that this budget is entered in euros.
Mhm.
Okay. So if we look at, let's refresh the budget list.
It's there.
There's my project. Okay. Now, right now I'm seeing the currency in euros, but if you look at this view here, I can see the budget in euros. I can also see what the budget is immediately in USD. Okay. And here you can toggle between all the currencies that you're willing to support. Okay.
Mhm.
Now the experience would be, if I'm going to capture the RIA, I'm going to be a person. I'm going to find my project on the in the budget room. I'm going to then click create RIA for approval. When I open this up, okay, this is what it's going to show me. It's going to show me the budget in euro. It's very easy for us to show this budget in USD here as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
we can do
yeah,
that.
that's. Mhm.
And then obviously I'll put a description. And then here I'd add some components. Okay, and it's CapEx. Do some classes here. Let's say it's 800,000. Okay, update. And then here I do the spending by month. Okay, all right, let's put some dates in here. All right, so you can see that, you see, for these calculations, we're doing it all in euro. We're doing 800 original budget this, and the reason why we want to do it all in euros, we don't want to, we don't want to show, if we show this variance in US dollars, depending on how you change your currency rate, it's going to look like the project manager is, potentially even over budget, right? Because, and that's one of the reasons why we kind of like force the people to enter the RIA in the currency. But we can certainly display US dollars here. That's not a problem there. And then, but this is how you manage a project manager. Okay, he's looking at that. Okay, he thinks he's doing a good job here. And we press next. Then this will open up and you'll fill this in, and this will be all in euros. Okay, and you look at macro hydroliters.
But why can't you enter it in whatever currency you want? I'm confused. I thought, because we were talking about toggling between currencies, right?
Okay, so
what's the reason?
Okay, the reason is going back to the previous page. So let's say the reason is that this might, if I'm entering this in US. If I just choose to display this form in, let's say, US dollars, and you have manipulated the exchange rate from when I submitted my 800 euro to now, this
exchange rate's not going to change, yo. I think Fabio, it goes back to the concept I talked about with the budget. The rate never changes, right? After it's locked down in January, it's never going to change throughout the year. I mean, the actuals are going to change, right? But we measure everything off of a standard rate, right? Because that's the only way we can drive true performance. We don't necessarily hold the impact of exchange rate fluctuations against the project team, right? Either positive or negative, right? I mean, so we will always be using the same rate once it's locked down at the beginning of the year, right? In January timeframe.
Okay, so whenever you lock down, you would always recalculate everything.
Everything, yeah, budgets,
even projects that have been submitted, because you could have a couple of RIAs that were submitted.
Correct.
Okay. Correct. Right, so that was one of the questions. Yeah, I mean, so we can break that rule, okay, and we can say, yes, enter it in USD, and then give you the ability to enter this in USD. Because and we said before, because your RIA and your budget will be at the same rate, it does eliminate some of the problems I just mentioned. Yeah. Okay, so you're right. We can enter the RIA in any currency. It sounds like you want to do that, and then we press next, and This is the one pager. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you look at the one page over here, we would then, we show the NPV and these kind of values. And of course, we can show these values in, in US dollars as well, right? But here we show a lot of the values in both currencies. So here we got the current requested amount in euros, the current requested amount in USD. Okay, we show the total project amount in euros, the total project amount in USD. So yeah, we can show everything. So I think if we just are able to import the budget in local currency, the system is pretty good, and the only thing we're going to have to do is just recalculate the values. Okay.
Yeah,
so
but I think the one pager should always be in the US dollars, right, Pierre? I mean, is there ever a time where we need to create this in a different currency? I think that should always be in the US dollar equivalent, because that's what the approvers are used to seeing, right, Pierre?
Correct. So that we would. I think that what we need to see, it's which part is used by whom. So one page it will be always in USD.
Correct.
Then for the budgeting there, I think that both would be good, because project managers are looking in euro and in USD. But for us, indeed, if it's just in USD, it's fine.
All right. So I don't think we're that far apart then. You can import the budget in local currency. Then, like we know what that amount is, and then as the US dollar changes, we are just changing the US dollar amount, but we keep in the local currency. So
Correct.
If you're happy with that, then our system is basically designed largely for that. The only thing we're going to have to do here is on the currency list. We got the budget scenario. Okay, so we've got the budget scenario over here, but it sounds like okay, so we got this currency list over here for budgeting, and we apply this US dollar to euro exchange rate. If someone comes in here and changes these values, we're going to have a recalculation button of the budget and all projects that in this new budget. But we're not keeping any history, right?
That would be good, though, if it's possible. I don't know if
what do you mean by history?
Well, keeping the history, I know if it was changed.
We're not going to keep. Okay, so we're always going to have the local currency, the budgets in local currency, so we know what those are. Those will never change. But if you come here and you change the exchange rate, the euro to US dollar exchange rate, and you press recalculate, we then are going to recalculate the US dollar values based on the new rate, and we're not going to keep a snapshot of the old US dollar rate.
But do we have an audit trail to see when this was changed? In other words, do we know who's like an auditing feature? Not necessarily to create a snapshot of the RIAs prior to this happening, but at least to know who changed this value at what time or not. Do we have that?
Probably not built into the system, but we could have that. Jim, what's your comment on that? I know you've got auditing all sorts of places.
No, we don't have this all because this is a system table, system configuration table. We don't have auditing for this table because supposedly only the system admin going to change this rate. So no, we don't have auditing.
So Jim, can we put auditing in?
Yes.
How would it look like? What would you do?
I think basically probably we just auditing in the back end. When updating it, we don't have any interface to showing this auditing in the form, but it's in the data. The data stored in the database. If you really want to see the auditing, you can run the report on
Okay, so Brad, I don't know if you understood that. It's we can audit, and will the audit contain the user that changed it, the credentials of the user that changed it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brad, I don't know if you know that, like the easy way we can turn auditing on the field, and then we're gonna in the database is gonna contain a record of who audited, who changed the exchange rate and when. Now, so any good someone like I'm sure Balaji would be able to give you that again and see who changed it. Now, if you want a user interface, then we have to build that, and then you can.
No, it doesn't have to be that crazy.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Okay,
I
so
don't
then
see it changing that much.
Okay, then we'll just put that as a requirement that we'll just audit the changes to the currency table.
So the auditing you want just who changed this rate. The last change, who did that and when did that?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, something simple. Yeah.
Simple. Okay.
Yeah.
You could restrict the users too, right, Fabio, and through security or something as well.
Well, only the CapEx administrator would be able to change this, right? It's not.
But you could set it up so there could just be one person that could
Correct.
change it, right? If you wanted to.
Correct. Yeah. No, we wouldn't make this available to a lot of people. It would be probably Brad and maybe Pierre, Flavio. I'm not sure whoever. It would be as a very few people that could change this.
I think that Pierre had to leave, and guys, I have a conflict here in a few minutes. Is there anything else that we need to cover about the currency or the other topic with the divestments?
I'm just thinking. So Brad, if a RIA has been submitted for approval, and it was one of the earlier ones, and then you change the exchange rate.
Yep.
And we hit recalculate. We go back into all those approved RIAs and update the US dollar amount. It could show that that the wrong delegation of authority was hit for that amount.
Yeah, but I mean, it's typically not going to be that big of a change. I mean, we're talking about 1 or 2% typically on an exchange rate difference between how we operate with the preliminary versus final. I don't anticipate that it's going to capture very many.
Yeah, because it could show up as an error saying, hey, this project was 50 million, 10, or let's say 5 million US. It should have gone into corporate. It didn't. So someone will have to say, why didn't this thing hit corporate? And then someone has to say, well, let's look at the exchange rate, and we can see that it was changed by Brad after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the only downside to having this capability, I'll handle that, because I don't see it happening very often with the fluctuation that we see.
Okay, yeah, I think.
And the fact of the matter is that we don't typically have a lot of projects that are in progress at the time that we change these rates. Typically projects are launched after we do this.
Okay. So Jim, do you have any questions around, and Bill?
Just the questions. Do we still want that feature to be able to toggle the currencies in the real, currently, because the prototype will be implemented, there has to be exactly the same as the currency in budget. So
yes, Jim, they want to be able to complete the RIA, even though the budget's in local currency. They still want to be able to complete the RIA in USD.
Okay. So for the budget, when we create the budget, we specify the currency. So after you complete the budget, do you want to be able to switch to other currency?
Change
the currency in the budget in even after you import or something. Oh,
Jim, but that's going to create problems.
Yeah,
I don't think I want that. Whatever the budget is imported in, that stays at that currency.
Okay. Guys, I'm sorry, but I have to jump to another call.
Okay.
Okay, I will call you a little bit later today, Fabio.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Jim, that's just the can of worms. I don't think they want that. And I hope you don't. But basically, when you import a budget in a set currency, it should stay that currency.
Yeah, I mean, let me talk offline with Pierre on that one. I don't see a big necessity to be able to do that. For sure, the local currency that the budget's in and the U.S. dollar. Right now, I can't necessarily think of a time where somebody would want to enter a RIA that wouldn't be in the U.S. dollar, would not be in the local currency, but a different currency altogether. If that's the question, I can't think of a reason.
No, that's not really the question. I think, Jim, you're saying that if you enter the budget in euros and it's in our system in euros, you want to be able to go into it and choose a different currency. Reset the currency of that budget. Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I thought you probably do like multiple report. First import in the euro, and then the second import, you say, okay, actually I want this in USD. Or in the form, actually you open the budget form, you want to change to other currency.
Jim, I think it's going to create a reconciliation nightmare at the budget level. Yeah. So do not, I'll fight everyone on this one now.
Can you send me that question via email so I can digest it a little bit? Because I don't necessarily think I understand it.
Sure.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to run here, guys. I got to jump off, but send me that and let me review that question, and I'll provide my feedback on my opinion on that one particularly. And then I guess we have a meeting on the KPIs for later this week, right?
I think it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, Brad.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Okay,
Sounds
great.
good.
Same time. If you can send us that recording, would be great.
Okay, cool.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.